I've said it before and I'll say it again.
Life moves pretty fast.
That's not what I was going to say. I'm talking about recasting the original actor from Gladiator who plays Lucius for Paul Mescal. You have the opportunity with the actor from the first film as a kid, who is still an actor, who is now grown into a handsome man who has just as much acting capability as Paul Mescal. Sorry, Mescal. It's a missed opportunity. It really is. And I'll emphasize this over and over again because I was thinking this back in 2019. I tried to make the video that I released about a little over a year ago 2 other times. This was in the back of my mind of like, what are they going to do here? And that they shafted Spencer Tree Clark from the second is baffling to me. Why wouldn't you want to have a consistency and a continuity from the first film? They do that with the other actors, but not Lucius for some reason. And in fact, they hate Spencer Tree Clark so much they recast him as a kid. Granted, I know they did it because they needed to add more scenes of him being sent away. I get it, but there's technology in which you could do a face mapping and, do a face replacement. If I was in his position, I would be pissed. And so I empathize in that way. He was great in Glass. So the same thing I'll ask now that I asked in my last video is, what's the deal? What's the deal, Ridley?
Because I wanted it to be that way, okay?
What a pisser.
What a pisser.
A wonder is, why didn't they call this Gladiator Strength and Honor? They repeat that phrase numerous times. Yes, it's from the first, but they repeat it numerous times in the sequel and so many other things. They do callbacks, etc. The biggest thing that permeates throughout this film is the presence of Russell Crowe, of Maximus. And they don't let you forget him. They even show flashbacks that are from the first film. They're not new scenes. The structure of Gladiator 2 is essentially the same. It follows the character of Lucius, who starts off with a family. In this case, it's just a wife, and she dies. Spoilers. And he gets into a battle, sold into slavery, and does a few bouts on the outskirts of Rome. He gets bought by a gladiatorial trader, gets taken to Rome, and goes into the Colosseum. And we have about 3 set pieces that take place in the arena. Then in the third act, there's a plan to seize power and overthrow the 2 emperors, and that goes to shit. And then there's a third act sequence in which Lucius unfittingly puts on Maximus's armor and defeats the main baddie, who turns out to be Denzel Washington, surprisingly in this case. That's pretty much the entire structure of the film, and the thing about it is, it's not giving you any surprises, aside from a few deaths. They kill a lot more people than I thought they were going to, which I would have appreciated those deaths if they were done with some decent acknowledgement of the characters, such as Derek Jacobi's role. He looks, by the way, pretty great for his age. He's aged 20 years, plus years, and he looks more or less the same. I really like his character. I know, I'm talking about a character that is so tertiary, he's not even important to the plot, but the reason I like him is because he's always been consistent and been an ally to the good guys of the first film and in this one, and they just fucking off him in the arena as he's a captive, and he's gonna be made an example of, and it's over. He's sliced and he's down for the count and he's done. They don't show a shot of him on the ground or Lucilla acknowledging the death. I mean, this is someone that she's known for probably her entire life, and there's no fucking reaction by her.
Cold-hearted bitch.
Ridley Scott, you didn't want to show that? I think that was a mistake, amongst a few others. Now, in terms of the good things of the film, well, Derek Jacobi, right there. Denzel Washington, obviously. He's one of the greatest actors in cinematic history, hands down. There is no denying that. And he is having a good time here, and he eats up the scenery. Sometimes, that's the thing. He knows when to pull back. He knows when to keep it subtle, and then he knows when to make it colorful and, move around and give some body language to the scenes and elevated oration. He's great in this role. He starts off as kind of a mentor, and then he becomes the person who really tries to overthrow the empire and put himself in power. The problem isn't necessarily the characters. It's how Ridley Scott decided to tell the story. It's borrowing so much from the first film and relying so much. My take for what they could have done, I mean, I actually have two takes. First of all, one of the mistakes that they do, this leads me to what they should have done, the exclusion of Djimon Hounsou from the first film. His character of Juba, he was such a ray of light and warmth in the film and was also a fighter in the arena. I would have wanted to see a Gladiator 2 following his character and see if he would have kept fighting in the Colosseum or somewhere out there, and maybe it led him back to reluctantly the Colosseum and fighting. I would have wanted to see that character come back because of that actor. He's another example of somebody who, he has his own magnetism and charisma on screen, similar to Denzel Washington, just they have different kinds. Denzel's more commanding, Djimon is more emotive and subtle and internal, I would say. I would want to have seen a Gladiator 2 starring him because he is one of the most underrated actors that's been around. I mean, he started off in a main role in Amistad, Steven Spielberg's Amistad, but then afterwards he was relegated to just a supporting character most of the time, and the closest I think he got to another leading role was in Blood Diamond. Again, he's great in those roles.
Your son is gone! He's alive! Gone! He's alive! He's down with those crazy people! I am his father! His father should have protected him! I must go find him! I cannot live without knowing! Shoot me if you want, but I'm going!
You've seen him. You've seen him in Guardians of the Galaxy and other films like that as a supporting character, but never has reached the heights of lead actor. And I honestly don't understand because he's fucking amazing.
Damn right.
Yeah.
Damn straight.
You got it.
The second is kind of twofold melded into one, which brings up the original thing that I talked about when this video started. They excluded Spencer Tree Clark for Paul Mescal. The entire movie with Mescal in it, one, Mescal is trying to convey the charisma and screen presence that Russell Crowe had, and he doesn't achieve that. This is kind of the expression in a lot of scenes that he has.
Why are you looking at me like that?
He looks like he's on mescaline. He's not bad, he's just not as good as he needed to be. So the wonder then becomes, what would have Spencer Tree Clark have done with this role? The thought of the pitch of how this movie could have gone was that you don't start off the movie with Lucius already a fucking warrior. You do a hero's journey. He starts off alone. He's not married. No, he doesn't have a wife. Don't do that. He starts off alone. Okay? And he's missing, he has this distant memory of this family that sent him off for his own safety. His mother did that. And he has this vague memory. The only thing he has is this vague memory of this figure, Maximus, that he looked up to as a kid. And maybe this is the thing that you can harken back to. In the first film, Maximus had these two little figures of his wife and son. What if Lucius starts carving this figure of this hero he used to know, and he needs to become that through circumstance of he does get thrown into a battle, but he fucks up, he fails. And that's what sends him off into slavery, to then he has to build himself up, almost like a superhero story. And to be able to see Spencer Tree Clark have to go from kind of scrawny to building his body up. Yes, this is something they would have had to have made time in the shooting schedule, similar to what Castaway did with Tom Hanks, but it's worth it because it's a real transformation. And if you don't want to do that, fine, go the CGI route the way they did Captain America. Okay, do a body replacement for a period of time. Hide his body under very big clothing. So this is more in detail now that I have the context of seeing the second film. Is it fleshed out more of what you could have done now? And what it should have still been, which is consistent of what I've been saying, is that this should have been a kind of superhero, quasi-superhero story of this character starting off weak and then building up to a badass gladiator warrior. You didn't have that in the first film with Maximus because he was already a soldier. But Lucius is not. He's of royalty. He came from a soft upbringing. He needs to rise to the occasion, and that's what we need to see. It should have been about him wanting to find his family, wanting to find home. That could have been Gladiator 2. This is something I talked about in a live stream. Don't fucking do the wife thing.
Yeah, the wife was entirely unnecessary.
This is a solitary
Kyle,
character.
you've gone and written it.
That is lonely.
So much better
He's dealing with isolation.
than what we got.
And he agrees. Says Kyle, I would pay to see your movie.
I would too.
Yeah, I would too.
Yeah.
Good one. I'm picturing it in my brain already.
They had an opportunity to show this character that came from privilege, and then he gets thrown into squalor and poverty to then become the person that saves Rome, who comes back from the dead. Because in this film, he's supposed to be dead. Like, nobody knows where the fuck Lucius went. He just disappeared after Maximus died. So the question then becomes, was there ever a point where Ridley Scott ever considered doing this with Spencer Treat Clark? Clark put out a statement in the press that was very diplomatic. I heard it's good, I look forward to it, etc., etc. He didn't touch upon the possibility and likelihood that Ridley Scott didn't even bother calling him. If that's the case, I think that's incredibly disrespectful, and again, a huge missed opportunity that we could have seen a better film than this. This version of Lucius that's on screen does not have the pathos that Maximus did. They try to repeat the beat from the first film of Maximus having his family killed, but here's the difference. Lucius has a wife who's fighting in war with her husband, and Pedro Pascal's character orders someone to kill her. This is a point of motivation for Lucius to seek vengeance for his wife, Pedro killing her, but he indirectly did, and two, it was during warfare. The difference here is that in the first film, Commodus brutally sent a troop of soldiers to murder Maximus's wife and child on their estate. This is not even worthy of the same comparison, and Lucius carries this weight of vengeance and anger that, by the way, isn't really portrayed very well, even though Denzel Washington says, I can see it. I can see the anger. I can see the rage. No, most of the way, Mescal plays it pretty straight and doesn't have any outbursts aside from one when he's mad at mommy in his cell and tells her to get out. He gets to have that actor moment, but it's unearned. There's something off about it. That's kind of the main point of what I want to get across here, is that it's a missed opportunity. It's a missed opportunity they could have done for this sequel, and they didn't do it. No.
Well, shit! What now, kid?
Some of the sequences in the arena are creative. It's weird. Each time they introduce an animal, there's a janky shot of CGI. There's a scene earlier on in the film of Lucius about to fight some baboons, giant baboons, and hairless, I mind you, in an amateur arena, and they're bouncing around in their pen waiting to come out, and it looks like a fucking cartoon. They have no weight to them, and it just begs the question of, who has a common sense eye here in recognizing that gravity has an effect on creatures and people? You have to show that and convey that. I don't know if they just work on the shot so much that they just lose an eye to see the common sense of it. Yeah, the sharks underwater look like they're something out of Deep Blue Sea, which did not have great CGI. Great practical effects. Great practical effects from Deep Blue Sea. And this film doesn't implement any of that. Yet the first film had a tiger fight, and they used real tigers. Now, some might say, animal cruelty and all that. There's a way to use animals and utilize them safely and prevent any kind of cruelty. You need to figure something out, because the CGI throws people out of the movie. I get thrown out of the movie. I'm just, what? No, it's not working. No. There's a possibility that this sets up a sequel. The movie literally ends pretty much the same way as the first, of a singular character, in this case it's Lucius, in the arena and gathers up some sand from the arena in his hand. And by the way, he fucking does this like 5 times. Just so you remember, Maximus did this. Remember that. He has the sand in his hand and he looks up and he says, "Speak to me, Father." And then cut to a shot of Russell Crowe's hand in the wheat fields. Hello, shalom. And it's over. I don't know how that sets up how does that set up a sequel? I don't know. By the way, there's a whole discussion of whether or not Maximus is Lucius' dad. Who could be his father? There's the rumor that it was Commodus, Joaquin Phoenix's character. I think I tend to believe that because it's more twisted and it's bringing on some damage that character did from the first film into the second. It's more dysfunctional, it's more complicated, it's more dramatic.
Oh my God!
I tend to err on the side of thinking that these characters, like Lucilla, is choosing to believe that Maximus is Lucius's dad. I mean, apparently, with all this talk, Lucilla gets around Rome. It wouldn't surprise me if she was a frequenter of Dionysian rituals. That's fancy Romanclature. See what I did there for orgy? The ultimate question is, should you go see it? There's a caveat here for who should see the film. If you haven't seen the first Gladiator, sure. Go ahead and see it. You'll probably enjoy yourself. But you're missing out, and you will, if you like Gladiator 2 enough, you'll definitely want to watch the first film because it's so much better. It's a classic now, and it's worthy of its status. Yeah, if you've seen the first and you love the first, I would not recommend seeing this then. Wait until streaming. Yeah, and definitely do not go see this in IMAX. It wasn't shot in IMAX. Don't spend the premium just to go see this in just a blown up version on IMAX when it's not shot on that. That is a marketing ploy. It is not genuine IMAX. Do not go see it. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Probably leave it at that. Whew. All right. Catch you next time.